So I read 11 books this month. I'm kind of impressed with myself. Hi guys, I'm Lauren and I'm here today to do my January wrap-up. So I read 11 books. That's a lot for me. I'm happy in a good month if I read 5. 4 of the books that I read this month were the first 4 of a series of unfortunate events. If you know anything about that series, those books are really short. In the beginning, they're like 200 pages each, if that. So those books are The Bad Beginning, The Reptile Room, The Wide Window, and The Miserable Mill, all by Lemony Snicket. And I'm not really going to go into detail on these books because this video would be too long if I did like a little mini review of all 4 of these. I'm planning on reviewing these 4 books all at once in one video next week, so keep an eye out for that. But all I'm going to say right now is it's called A Series of Unfortunate Events, but I feel like the title of the series is like an understatement because it's actually really tragic stuff that happens to them. Like, unfortunate makes it seem like it's kind of like snarky, and it is snarky and fun, but like their lives are just not good at all. Like, it's just tragedy. So if you're gonna read this, be prepared. Not that Lemony Snicket is not gonna remind you about it every time you start reading a book in the series, so I don't need to remind you. And then I want to talk about the books that I finished in January, but I actually started in December. And one of those was The Queen of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. And I actually read like pretty much like 99% of this book in December, and I think I finished like half of the last chapter on January 1st. So it technically goes in this video, but I read most of this in December. It's fantasy technically, but it could qualify as science fiction because it's set sometime in the future when after people have like found a new land somewhere on Earth somehow and traveled and settled there. So it's kind of both-ish if you stretch a little bit, but it's definitely fantasy, and this follows this girl who's been raised to be queen, and then she gets crowned, and it's just like about her struggles maintaining her power and all the political conflicts in her land. And a lot of people say this is really slow, but I just think it's really detailed, and I enjoy reading all of the details of the political conflicts and social issues in her kingdom. This is a very good series. I'm just starting the second book right now, and I love it even more. The other book I started in December and finished in January is Touch by Claire North, and I really love this book. I can't even express my emotions. The main character can basically jump between bodies at free will as long as they touch skin, which is where the title comes into play. You have to touch someone to be able to move into their body. But this book also talks a lot about immortality and morality. I really enjoyed it. Also, Claire North's writing is just so beautiful. She finds the perfect way to describe this very abstract idea, and she makes you feel like that you are the one experiencing it, and you totally can sympathize with the main character. It's just, she has a great talent of explaining really complex ideas and then complicating the plot on top of that idea. It's a very entertaining and engaging book. It should be on everyone's list. Everyone should just read Claire North because I am loving her so far. She's amazing. Okay, the next book I want to talk about is Gemena by Emmy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I think it's Amy. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know how to say that name. But Gemena is a sequel to Illuminae in the Illuminae Files series. And you've probably heard about this. This series is basically everywhere on BookTube. It's science fiction set way in the future. It's like a thriller, mystery, and the best part about it is that it's told through mixed media. So you have like chat logs and little drawings, sketches. So this series is not told in like a traditional novel format. It's mixed media. It has all these different images and designs in it. And I think it's a really cool way to tell a story. Once you pick it up, you cannot put it down. It's so fast-paced and thrilling, and I can't get enough of it. And I'm kind of sad it's only a trilogy because this time next year it'll be over. The next book I want to talk about, I read Happily Ever After by Kiera Cass. This is the set of companion novellas and chapters to the Selection series. So I marathoned the entire Selection series, including the 2 sequel novels that came after the original trilogy, and then I read this. So maybe I might have enjoyed it more if I had read the trilogy and then read Happily Ever After and then read the sequels. The story was complete in those other 5 books, and I didn't really need more content in this series, even though I did like the stories. I just didn't really enjoy them as much as I did the original books. And the last fiction book that I read this month is 3 Dark Crowns. I was really happy with this book. It's high fantasy. It's set on this island. Every generation, 3 triplets are born to the queen, and then the triplets are all raised by different tribes on the island. And once they turn 16, they have to fight each other, and whoever comes out alive becomes the next queen. So it's high stakes, has a lot of tension, and there's political conflict. I love political conflict. It's a very interesting world that the author set up. I did have one small drawback to this book, is that for a lot of it, it's a lot of build-up. I felt like the first third of the book, after you get past all the world building, was kind of slow, and I was just like waiting for the main event to happen. But then the rest of it makes up for it, in my opinions. And then I want to talk about the 2 nonfiction books that I read this month. I'm pretty happy I read 2. One of my resolutions for this year is to read at least 1 nonfiction book a month, so I'm pretty happy that I read more than that. The first one that I read is called Stonewalled, and this one is about a memoir from a CBS reporter who spent most of her career covering the government and Congress. The headline, or like the synopsis of this book, talks about her personal and work computer being hacked by the federal government because of what she's reporting on them. She goes through all of her career, and for each big story she reports on, like Obamacare or Benghazi, she talks about reporting on it, but also how her network producers reacted to her reporting on it. And a lot of the times they didn't want her to report more information on the topic. Me, as a journalism major, I have a degree in journalism and political science, and me as a journalist, I thought that was very interesting to see the kind of inner politics of the network. Producers are kind of preventing investigative journalists from getting their story on air. She really demonstrates all the kind of political tensions between advertisers and producers on the network, which I don't think should exist at all. It's not a good thing that networks have to think about keeping advertisers on their side when they're trying to report news. So if you have any questions or are wondering about how the media works and why some news gets reported and other things don't, I think this book is a great resource for you. And the other nonfiction book I read is The Princess Diaries by Carrie Fisher. This is another memoir. I kept meaning to read Carrie Fisher's books for a while, and it's kind of sad that it took until her dying for me to finally pick one of them up. But I'm really glad I read this book. Carrie Fisher is hilarious, and this book goes over her experience as a 19-year-old being cast in Star Wars and filming the first Star Wars. It gives you more insight into who Carrie Fisher is and how Star Wars is made. There's a section in the middle-ish where she basically published parts of her personal diaries that she kept from back then, and I thought that part was really interesting, just to see how she was thinking and feeling in that moment. And so it was kind of like a time capsule, and that's one of the things I really like about keeping personal journals and diaries, is you can look back on any day of your life that you wrote something, and it's like a snapshot of what you were thinking, how you were feeling, who you were. And that's why I journal now more regularly than I used to. I just like personally for myself to be able to look back and see what I was thinking and feeling on any given week, because I don't really journal daily. So if you love Star Wars or want to know more about Carrie Fisher, you should totally read The Princess Diaries. That's all the 11 books that I read this month. I'm still pretty happy that I can say that I read 11 books in a month. It's pretty awesome. I did start books in January that I haven't finished yet, so if I finish them in February, hopefully I'll be able to talk about them then. You can follow my more detailed reading history on Goodreads. I'll have a link below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. If you have read any of these books or are planning to read them, or maybe I convinced you to pick them up, let me know below. I would really love to talk to you about any of these. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.